It's Charlie here, and over the course of my agency journey, I've had over 1,000 sales calls by now. And if I had this video when I started, it would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm not just saying that, it generally would have helped me so much. And what I'm actually going to share in this video will make closing deals easy, but also make it feel less scary and not put not as much pressure on you. Because when I first started my sort of journey in the sales calls at the start, I was terrified, I was nervous before every single call. So what I'm about to go over is some sort of tips and tricks that I wish I would have known when I started, because me looking back at my first sales calls, as you can see here, I lost a lot of money because I did not understand these concepts. Like, no joke, like if you can just like apply what I'm about to tell you when you're starting instead of like where I am a year and a half later, you would be so much further ahead. So if you don't do what I'm about to share in this video, you are screwed. Like, it will always be hard to close deals. But the truth is that before we go into the actual like nitty gritty, like actual details of how we're going to do this, we need to sort of understand how your mindset should be before actually going into the call. Now, this is something that a lot of beginners, including myself when I started, I made the mistake of doing this. Now, a lot of people think that if they don't close the deal, then they've lost the call, and they go into the sales call thinking that they have to close the deal. And by doing that, by nature, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, which is unnecessary. When actually you need to sort of reframe your mindset and go into the sales call thinking that you're more of a person who's trying to diagnose their problems instead of trying to sell them on a solution. Just go into the call thinking about, identifying their problems, helping them, giving them value, instead of just trying to have this be all or end all of black and white, either you close them or you don't close them. Because quite frankly, and I did this myself, I went into the sales calls just trying to close every single client. And the reason it doesn't work is that, to be honest, some of your sales calls are going to be people who aren't qualified for your product or service. And by turning people away from your service, you're actually going to make the people who are a good fit feel like you mean it. And when you speak with conviction and you say to them, you're a good fit, would you like me to explain how I could sort of help you and get you to that end goal? It's going to actually seem more genuine because you turn people away and because you aren't so focused on the end result. Now, I'm going to go over this more, but sales is literally like a tennis match. It's back and forth constantly, and every word has, or it should have, meaning behind it. You can't just be saying things for no reason. And it's also like a tug of war sort of contest. Like, you're constantly pulling, the other person's pulling, and the person who wins, right, is the salesperson who has high conviction but low attachment. Now, low attachment is something that I've been working on myself, and it's essentially where you don't forget about whether you close the deal or not. Just focus on helping the person. And high conviction is someone that speaks with utter confidence. You can tell in their voice that they mean it. They say the price and they don't speak after. They explain their service without stuttering. High conviction, low attachment. You want to have energy, you want to have good energy, but you also want to be completely detached from the outcome. Now, an example is men and women. Now, men tend to always chase women, right? And notice how when the woman doesn't respond, and it's the same vice versa, by the way. Same with women, how if they were to contact a man and he isn't that bothered, but the woman still chases him, or vice versa. It's the same principle. The person who needs the other person more wins, if that makes sense. So when you're asking your questions on the sales call and you're amplifying pain and building an emotional sort of battle within them, the person who needs the other person the most wins. So in terms of how that sort of looks like, or what that looks like, it's quite self-explanatory. But if you can make the prospect feel like that they need you more than you need them, and you've got low attachment, it's going to drive them to want to buy. Because a lot of salespeople, and I have made this mistake myself, is that like when you keep, like, obviously I'm not saying you can't like push and you don't handle objections. No, I'm saying you do handle objections, but you need to handle it in a way like that you don't really care if they do something else. Obviously you want to help them, but you don't want to come off as like, because too many salespeople come off as like they're just trying to get money. And realistically, obviously, you are financially incentivized to close the client because you're going to make money. But if you can just come off as like a genuine person who wants to help the other person and isn't attached by money. So like, for example, I'm not like, yeah, because it sounds like I'm saying like not to handle objections, but you should handle objections and you should push back until you get a yes or no. But you need to do it in a way that makes them seem that you aren't too attached. Now, here are some tactics that the best sales reps use in the world. Now, silence. Silence is, very powerful, and it's contrary to what most people think. And if you were to sit in a room with billionaires, they would probably, most of them would just be silent. They'd be listening. The best salespeople are the listeners, and the people who just shut up and extract the information they need. So, for example, when you're asking your questions on the sales call, you don't like put words in their mouth. You just say the question and you let them speak. And if they don't give you an answer that you want, you stay silent for an extra 2 to 4 seconds, and they will feel like they need to tell you more. Because when you just don't speak after asking a question, and the reason we ask questions is to, it's multiple reasons. It's to actually qualify the person, to make sure they're a good fit. So obviously we don't want anyone coming into, the agency or the program, etc., or whatever you sell. So it's to make sure they're a good fit, but it's also to build emotion. Now, a lot of people, like, if I were to ask you, I don't know, where do you want to be in 6 months? And you give me like a short answer of, I don't know, 10K per month. If you just don't speak, they're going to feel like they haven't given you enough information, and then they will speak more. So that's one thing to keep in note. Silence. If you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is just not speak very much on a sales call. For multiple reasons. One, you can't mess up as much, so you won't actually like stutter as much. You won't say the wrong thing as much. Also, you can extract more information. You want to make them speak. They should be speaking for like 70% of the sales call, maybe 80% even. So silence is extremely powerful, and it's something you should use. Now, the next one is compliment-based selling connections. So when you're building rapport at the beginning of a sales call, it's really, really important to compliment them. So a lot of people, they give on the sales call, but if you can say like, you seem like a genuine person. Now, building a connection is really important because it's going to make it really, really easy to close later on, because you've built a connection and you've complimented them, which means that they feel like they need to give something back, which obviously is going to be money. Now, the next one's empathy. Now, empathy is one that you probably heard before, but the one that can listen and just sympathize with the prospect is the one that's going to win. Like, it comes back, and I'm going to go over lowering guards and ego evasion at the bottom, but essentially empathy is just listening to them and like feeling their sort of energy and not interrupting them. I see so many people interrupt people, and it's just rude. Just be quiet when they're speaking. But yeah, just try to get on the same level as them, and it's going to make it easier to build that connection and hopefully get them to close. Now, the next one is gap selling. You need to be asking them where they are currently. So one thing that, once again, the best salespeople in the world do is the biggest sort of, if you didn't know, the main reason why people buy anything in life is because of pain, and the biggest leverage you have on a sales call is probably their current situation, because people don't book calls for no reason. They booked a call because they need help. Now, if you asking them about their current situation, so how much money they're making, how many meetings they're booking, how many customers they're getting, just by you asking those questions and them having to speak a low answer automatically puts them in pain, if that makes sense. And what you want to do is you want to flip that, so you've made them feel like they understand their problems, because a lot of people don't understand their problems enough. But once you've done that, then you need to ask them where they want to be down the road, 12 months, 2 years, whatever. And that's the more you can make them feel like they've achieved that, the better. So I know a lot of like, this is really advanced, but some of the best sales reps, they use smell and other sort of senses in the actual like selling process. For example, like everyone wants to get to $10,000 per month, right? But why? So asking them like, what would that do for you? And then them saying like, oh, I could travel. And then you ask like, where do you want to go? Making them feel like they've already achieved it, making them feel important. And then let's say, I don't know, they want to live by a beach. You would sort of go into the senses of what it'd be like on that beach in terms of, you know, how the beach smells. Like you could say, oh, I love the smell of the beach. And then by you saying that, they're going to automatically imagine and take them to a place where they are on a beach. And then you've pretty much already like sold them at that point. Everything else, as long as you've got a good offer and you're pitching with confidence, you'll be fine. But that's like a really important thing. Next is objection routes. So a lot of people get objections. Obviously, everyone gets objections. But what separates good salespeople from the best is that they understand why the person is asking objections. So if I'm saying, like, for example, like people don't say objections for no reason. Like, let's say I'm the prospect and you're the salesperson, and I say something like, I'm trying to think, what would be a good one? I need to speak to my business partner. So realistically, obviously you should have asked them that at the beginning if they are the decision maker, but assuming you didn't and they say they need to speak to their business partner, realistically, they're just using that as a smokescreen, and it's because they're probably not confident in the thing you're offering. So like they understand why they're saying objections. And if you can do that, you'll be insanely good at sales. And also like a great way to rebuttal that is by asking the prospect, why do you think your wife would be opposed to this? And then just by you saying that, they're going to say what they think the wife will be opposed to, which realistically what that means is that it's what they're opposed to. So there's just so much to this game. And obviously you get better and better as you go on. So that's one thing. Like I can tell you all of this, but you only truly get good at sales once you've had like a few hundred sales calls and you aren't sort of nervous anymore. So it is completely normal to be nervous when you are starting. I had the same, but let's swiftly move on because I don't want to make this video too long. The next is analogy-based objection handling. So instead of telling the person they should buy, give them an analogy that makes a conclusion up in their own head. For example, let's say, because to be honest, there's like a few reasons why people won't buy, but one is fear. So let's say they're scared of buying, and you need to get them over the edge. I know a common one is like asking them like were you scared when you had your first kiss? Like it's a absolutely crazy one, but it not only breaks the tension and makes them feel like at ease, it also gives them an analogy that can make a conclusion up in their own head. So they'll be like, yeah, I was nervous when I had my first kiss. And then you ask like, are you nervous now when you kiss like girls? And they're going to be like, no. And it's like exactly the same thing. So it's always scary when you haven't done something you haven't done before. And like going into the unknown is scary. And if we want to change where you are currently, we have to make a different decision, and a different decision will equal a different outcome. So it is going to be scary. So instead of telling someone that they should buy, and you're basically giving them a story that can make them get to the conclusion by themselves that they should buy. Next is lowering guards and ego evasion. This is pretty common if you're like a good salesperson, but if you're absolutely new to sales and you don't know what this is, essentially when someone has an objection, so I need to think about it, I can't afford it, or just any objection, the first thing you should do is lower the guard. So they're thinking that by them saying that, you're going to be like, no, you need to buy now, and like aggressive. But if you can say like, yeah, no, that's completely fine. Of course you need to think about it. I completely get that. How long do you think you need? Like that's lowering the guard, right? So if they're here with a bit of resistance, that's going to make them go down here, and then you can sell them logically and stuff like that. And then it also evades egos. So that's another thing. A lot of people will be like, okay, what do you need to think about? And I'm not saying don't do that, but like you might piss them off if you keep doing it, if that makes sense. So the way you go about it, just like if like let's say the price is too high, you could say price and like with a question mark instead of like just saying like what do you mean the price is too high? So like do you see the difference? Like you've got to be subtle and gentle instead of like aggressive and forceful. You need to really like lower their guard so you can then overcome it. Next one is yes or no's. Good salespeople, they either get a yes at the end of a call or a no. There's no maybe. No one likes maybes. I hate maybes. I go to bed every night scared of maybes. I'm joking. I don't. But yes or no is what you want. Like I've gotten to the point, right? I've gotten to the point where I literally say to them at the end of the call, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm extremely busy. That puts me like at a higher social sort of authority figure. But then I say like I'm really just looking for a yes or no. And what that does is it's like it tells them that you're busy and you don't have time to do follow-ups, but it also just, you know, gives you an answer that you can tick them off. Because realistically, when people say they're going to get back to you, like 90% of them don't, especially if you do sell them on something like this. But next one, lastly, frameworks are better than scripts. Don't read off a script. Like you want a framework, you want to understand how you should structure the sales calls, and I'm going to tell you right now. So you start with the report at the beginning for the first 2 to 5 minutes, build a connection, talk about, give them compliments, connection, empathy, stuff like that. Then for the next 20 minutes of the sales call, it should be you asking them questions. Once again, current situation versus desired situation. Also, it's not just about building emotion, it's also about actually understanding if they're a good fit. So ask them certain questions like what service do you provide, how long have you been running your business, just basic questions, but that should be about 20 minutes. Then it should be, if they are a good fit, you would say, I'm excited, you're an amazing fit, would you like me to explain how I could potentially help you, getting them to say that's a small yes, which equals a big yes at the end. And then you're going to pitch them for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then they're going to ask you questions, then they're going to say the price question, and then you're going to say the price, and then there's going to be objections, and then once the objections are done, the end of the call's done. So the whole goal is to structure in a 45-minute call close, and that's really what you should be going for. I know a lot of people say like do follow-up calls, and that should be a last resort if you really cannot get them to close. But even then, I wouldn't even do follow-up calls because you're just giving them a reason not to buy. And as time goes, also doubt builds. So you don't, like, what I've noticed is that from my calls, that I've had 1,000 of them, the longer time goes. So let's say you pitch them, you tell them the price, you cannot get them to buy, and you set up a follow-up call in a week, they're going to have so much more doubt because doubt grows the longer the time goes. So that's something to note. But hopefully this video helped. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want my sales structure and my sales process, my sales system on how I've closed about 50 high-ticket clients, then you can apply for my one-to-one coaching. It's literally me spending time with you. I am quite selective with who I take on, so I'm only going to be leaving a few more spots open potentially. So be quick if you do want coaching by me and you want access to my outreach systems, my sales systems, just everything in terms of client acquisition, service delivery, and also a community of other agency owners, then I'll leave a link. It'll be the first one in the description. Other than that, hopefully this helped, and hopefully you're not as nervous now, because you should go into the sales call thinking about helping them and diagnosing their problems instead of just closing them. But yeah, hopefully this helped. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.